Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Yay. Okay, so we're officially recording. So I guess that means it's time for me to well, you good? You good?
Yes. No, I saw the message. I was like, oh, let me hit the button.
Oh. All righty. So that's for the next episode. But anyways, yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy Podcast, where we step out and talk about sexuality. It's your host, your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Sebastian Adams. I don't know why this mofo keeps coming up second. Who knows? You can also recognize me as Slaytor Jackson. So yes, today's episode, we will be talking about online versus traditional dating again, because it's a favorite topic of mine. But I have Terrell. We'll be talking about that today. And if you don't mind, do you mind introducing yourself, telling everybody, about yourself, what you do, all that other good shit?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So as it was mentioned, my name is Tyrell Collins. I am a doctoral student at Georgia State University. I teach actually in English composition. And so, I'm really excited to be here. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And I've just been great. I've just been doing great being on a journey to explore different intersections of my identity and sexuality. So I'm just very enthused to be a part of this platform.
Oh, and y'all, the greatest thing is that Tyrell, this is the thing. When I say join the conversation, I mean that shit. Like he came from a listener, now he's on the podcast. Like the conversations is welcome for all. So subscribe today, enjoy the fucking conversation, people.
Subscribe. That's what you need to do.
Right. So we in our intake meeting, we did talk about some of the groups that you're involved in on Facebook. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. Just as an educator, of course, I am definitely a part of different Black male educator groups and websites. So Black Educators United, Alliance as well. So you can look up any of that, on Facebook for especially any of my men who are out there who are Black and brown skin. Definitely those groups are there to support you. We have a lot of nice conversations surrounding the nature of education, no matter if you're in secondary ed, collegiate experiences like I am, or something that is a postdoc or anything like that. We are always here to support you. As I mentioned, obviously getting into different intersections of my identity, I'm also a part of Black poly groups because I do identify as a polyamorous person. And so getting into different aspects of the poly community, the Black queer community, there's all sorts of groups that are out there to just support. So I definitely just want to put that message out there that, you don't need to feel alone as you are going through your experiences, your, ever evolving or changing emotions. There are groups and people that are out there that are going through not necessarily the same, but similar aspects. And so there's great community to be had online.
Oh, amen. Love to hear it. And one thing I will, this is kind of going on your sexual expression here. The thing that I found interesting and was educated about is the concept of being solo poly. That, like, I was like, what the hell? I didn't know that was a thing. So I always knew that, being polyamorous, there are very different ways to express yourself, but I never thought of it as something as being just solo, a singular person. So that was enlightening for myself.
Right. Absolutely.
So now to transition over into the conversation of things, online versus traditional dating. The first thing I like to ask all my guests is, which of the two, which one do you particularly prefer?
That's a very interesting question. I don't necessarily know if I have a preference of one over the other. I think that both of them have their positives and their negatives, and so much of both kind of overlap in a way.
Mm.
I think when we think about online dating, a lot of people have like this, kind of like resistance, to it, as especially like when we're talking to like a lot of older adults about our online dating experiences. And it's one of those attitudes that a lot of people have that, oh, well, you could be meeting somebody crazy, online, which I don't necessarily like using the word crazy, but that's typically the vocabulary that's used. And I'm like, well, you could meet somebody like that in person.
True.
So I think that the affordances, along with the negatives of both, have very big implications. I think that just for my personal preference, because I do tend to be a little bit shyer in person, I think I prefer to kind of converse with somebody maybe offline first before I actually meet a person, because I think when you're in a space of meeting someone, of course you do have very good advantages. You can tell somebody's personality or things about them just based on their body language, or something that is going on in a physical setting. But I think that for a lot of people that may have a little bit more reservedness to them, may feel that meeting someone online just provides a little bit more caution that you may not necessarily be able to have in a traditional, kind of face-to-face meeting. But I definitely don't discount face-to-face meetings. I think that, hey, just give it to you up front. It is what it is. You either, vibe with the person, or you don't. So I think that meeting people face to face gives you like that instantaneous, okay,
Mm.
yeah, this is either for me or it's not for me.
I feel you on that. Like, I know for myself, I'm very shy. That's why I tend towards, online dating. So I can feel the person out before I actually want to engage. But I will say the immediate response when it comes to knowing a person's energies, whenever you do meet them face to face, is a little bit different whenever it's like just somebody that you've gotten familiar with online versus someone that you met at a grocery store, at the gym, or whatever the case may be. Because you get those vibes when it comes to strangers that you meet. It's like, okay, you know what? Something's telling me that you and I will not work out.
Yeah.
There's that energy. I don't know where it's coming from. We can't do this. Or you get that something about you is making me a little bit aroused that I want to explore.
And I think also, I think I cannot, and I don't want to be quoted verbatim on this. I believe it was the creator of one of the main dating apps. I can't remember if it was Tinder or something else like that. She did an interview, and I cannot remember her name for the sake of me. But I remember I read an interview from her, and she was saying that the main aspect of, why online dating gets, like such a bad rap is because a lot of times people don't make it past the talking stages. It's like, you match up, you message, but it doesn't really go anywhere. And I remember what she was saying about how people like criticize like an app like Tinder and other apps. And I liked her perspective from being a developer. As she was saying, the app is created, what apps are created to make the connection. They don't make the relationship. That's up to the people. And I think that that's where we entered into this whole like dating app, sort of, phase in life. I think that people were getting more obviously involved with their careers, family life. And then I think as we become a more progressive and expressive, kind of world when it comes to what we like, what we dislike, I think that meeting people in person just became a little bit too much of a task. It's like, I hear a lot of people say, like, I don't have time to go sit at the bar and,
Right.
trying to, meet people or, just, things like that. So I think that the whole thing about meeting in person, it seems like such an arduous task than to just, look at somebody's profile. Oh, like they look good. They in my age range or sometimes out of my age range, if that's what you're into. And so I think that people feel like, oh, I can vet a bit more of compatibility with online dating. But I think that the problem with that is we could be compatible on paper all day long, but if we don't get past the talking stage to actually get to the dating part, then what was this for?
True. I think a lot of people, I guess, conflate dating apps with matchmaking and thinking that, oh, I'm on this app, I'm going to swipe around the people that you all present to me, which means that you all see that this might be a perfect person for me. So let me swipe right on that person, swipe left. If we match, that means we're automatically compatible, but they never actually engage to really figure that out because you don't get that on dating apps.
And also it's also about, what you put out is a mirror reflection about what you get back. I tend to think that, as we speak about energy, the energy that you put out into the world is going to be the energy you get back. So I'm not saying that, you can't have a profile pic of, hey, you at a beach, you got your shirt off, you're glistening, the sun glowing, you're looking good, or, whatever. But my thing is, if all of your pictures are of you shirtless or, things like that, then you have to kind of say in your head, okay, maybe seeing this, people are just going to be looking at me for my body or, something like that. So I just tell people not to be surprised when you are receiving certain messages. And it's not to say that posting a shirtless picture is anything wrong with that. But then when that becomes like the first thing that people see about you, then it becomes like that's the narrative you create. It was actually a very interesting article I recently read where they were saying like people who post like pictures with their animals, like with their dogs, like they get a whole lot more like instantaneous responses for potential matches. And it was very interesting because just posting a picture with your animal, it says so much about, like your life, are you a doggy dad or doggy mom or, something along those lines. And so just the nature of how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. What narrative are you trying to put out there when you are on your, on your dating apps?
That reminds me of the concept of curating. So essentially, you have to curate the online experience that you're looking to have on these dating apps. So I like that. One of the conversations that we had in our intake meeting was related to courtship processes. I forgot most of that conversation because it's been a while. So we're bringing it back up now. So what is courtship for you, and how does that relate when it comes to online dating and traditional dating?
I think the nature of courtship, I don't think that it changes between platforms. I think it's just when I think about courtship, I think about the nature of etiquette. Like, so, thinking about how I would want to be treated, on a date or trying to get to know someone. So, just for safety, kind of concerns, if I'm going out on a date, I'm not going to, necessarily invite someone back to my place. I'm just getting to know someone. That's a kind of, work up or build up, kind of a thing. When I think about courtship, I know that there's a particularly big conversation that goes on within the gay community for gay men about who picks up the check.
The Holiloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Holiloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Holiloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation.
Big conversation that goes on within the gay community for gay men about who picks up the check on a date. And I've been surprised in like many forums about the variations of this conversation. Some people believe that based on your sexual preference, that that leads into like who picks up the check. You have many men who are old school. They figure, you know, like, hey, if I am the person who invited someone out, I'm going to be the one that pays. A lot of men feel like, well, that's something that you need to vet before you actually go on the date. So that way, you know, if something is being done that's out of your price range. So it's just a very mixture of, you know, answers to, you know, this kind of question. And I think the reason why it's such a hot button subject, because when you're talking about, you know, traditionally like two men who are going out, you know, when we think about the traditional nature of courtship, you know, between a man and a woman, the man is the one that courts the woman, you know, so the man is the one to pull out, you know, chairs. He's the one to open doors and pay for meals and, you know, things like that. But then I think when we think about, you know, two men being together, we're both men. There is no, in quotes, self-identifying woman in this dynamic. So being as men, how do we essentially court each other? And I think that the reason why it's such a hiccup is because depending on your definitions or your outlook of masculinity, femininity, those things get conflated because you may not have seen in a stance of two men going out on a date. You know, so even though you may have a identifying aspect of being a gay man, your tradition, your idea mindset of dating puts you back into the space of man and woman. So that's how, you know, people operate. And so I think that, you know, the nature of courtship can look like however it is for whoever you are getting to know. But I think that to truly engage in courtship, you have to kind of start to undo a lot of the thinking that is from heteronormative views, because if you are on the queer spectrum, you're not going to be in a heteronormative situation.
Amen to that. Like I know there was, again, I'm so happy I got POF off my phone, but at the same time, I was communicating with someone on there and we match or whatever, and he pretty much was like, oh yeah, I do like dating and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh cool. I'm the type of person that dates with intent. And I asked, okay, when it does come to a date, what do you prefer? What is your preference on that? And he pretty much was like, oh, I want the other person, like being myself, to pay for the dates in full. And I was like, okay, that's great to know. Just let you know, this is my perspective of that. On the first date, I like for it to go Dutch. That way no one feels any obligation to owing anything or anything like that, because we are in a society that's very transactional. And a lot of people don't realize that because, you know, they don't have the lingo to put that into place. But because we're in a society of transactional actions, I don't want you to feel obligated that you're owed anything or that you owe me anything because of that first date. I just want to just have a conversation with you, figure you out. And I also kind of want to see how you like to spend your money too. So I can gauge where we are. And I even mentioned, but when it comes to like my friends, where I have a full connection with them, we've known each other for years, I can take them someplace, invite them out, and I'm going to pay for their food. Or they pay for my food. I have a friend here in Augusta that we occasionally go out. Either I take the bill, she takes the bill. It doesn't matter. It's not anything serious. It's just, this is how we operate as friends.
But like you say, it becomes of the fact that when there's an implication for romance or, you know, something like that. And I think even just getting to know someone new, it's kind of like you say, you don't want to put that out there because you don't want to, I think for the nature of us, if we're going out with someone, we don't want to be put in a position where another person is thinking that, oh, if they pay for something, that we owe them something now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, a lot of times going into it with that mindset, sometimes even from just the first meeting, it can be all sometimes a little bit, I think, of a turnoff as well. Because as you say, we kind of think of first dates as being something that's almost transactional in a way. And I think that obviously there's many reasons for that. One, you're just getting to know someone. And then two, you're trying to see is, especially like if you met online, is the spark that we had online like that in person? Or if you happen to have met, in person, seeing that person in a different, kind of setting, in a date kind of setting,
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this is, worth your time and your energy? So yeah, I think that, those kind of feelings, even before going into the date, can have a very big, can create very big perceptions about how the date actually goes.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something that I kind of want to piggyback off of when you were talking about whenever you meet somebody in person after talking to them online, and how that does not often translate, the chemistry doesn't connect. Something that is that I found recently is that, discovered recently, is how even if you do meet somebody in person, how sometimes their personality does not translate over into the text form, into the virtual spaces. It's like, yeah, I occasionally I do want to talk to somebody on the phone or something of that nature, but I'm also a busy person. So I prefer to text so that I don't stop everything I do. Because for me, if I'm going to be on the phone with you, have a conversation with you, I do that with intent that we're going to actually be talking about something, not just because you want to hear my voice. Exactly. If you are calling me and you want to talk just to hear my voice, I'm going to be annoyed because I stopped my TV, I stopped whatever assignment I was doing, I paused this, I moved somewhere where I can focus on what you're telling me, and so we can have this conversation. Exactly. Just so you can say, oh, I just want to hear your voice. What?
Yeah. And I think that that's something that, I think that for me is something that needs to be kind of like cleared up in the beginning, because like you say, it's annoying. And honestly, it's a pet peeve for me because I don't mind texting, but I am much more of a phone conversationalist. And I consider myself to be a conversationalist in general. So if me and you have, we've hit it off, we have a vibe or, something like that, I am going to want to, talk on the phone. Now, if that's not necessarily your preferred method of communication,
yes,
maybe we don't necessarily have to talk on the phone as much, but I do still need that. However, the one thing that I do have as kind of like a pet peeve specifically with me is that I can be if I'm on the phone with you and we're having a good dialogue, I can be on the phone for hours. But what ends up happening is that person will want to have like another conversation like the next day or, something like that. And I'm just like, okay, we just spent last night like 3-4 hours on the phone. What do we have to talk about?
Ain't nothing new happened in one day.
So it's kind of like even in the beginning stages, having the aspect of, I want to get a chance to miss you, find out what's actually been going on in your life. So that way, when we talk again, we actually have things to talk about.
Right. Like sending messages on a daily basis. That's cute and all. I get why people love to get that morning text and whatnot. But after a while, if you're just in constant communication with the person, more than likely every single day, you're just going to get that WID text and you just say nothing, just chilling. And there's no development in the conversation because we talked about everything that I need to talk about.
And I understand it as a romantic gesture, the good morning text, how are you doing, kind of text. And I get it. However, for me, I think when it's consistently like every day, like I say, I get it. Because, you're trying to get to show people that you're interested. To me, that doesn't necessarily show me intent for something. That just means that, yeah, I'm on your mind. Hey, you're thinking about me. I appreciate it. I definitely do. However, it crosses into that aspect of just being peckish and annoying, So say if like, hey, me and you we went out, Friday night or, something like that. You text me the next morning saying, hey, I had a good time. Can't wait to see you again. let's, try to make our schedules, work for maybe sometime at the end of next week or the following week. Bam, that's all that we need to say. But if I get a text like Sunday, oh, how are you doing today? And then Monday, oh, I'm wishing you a good day. And then Tuesday, it's like I'm not getting a chance to breathe, take in the hopefully amazing, time that we had. And like I said, giving me a chance to actually miss you. Because if we're just constantly in communication, which communication is good, it's very vital, especially when you're trying to get to know someone. But that kind of just, like I say, just the whole
readily available.
Exactly. It's kind of like, I don't need that. And I don't need that. And I'm not saying that, like other people don't. It's just, I'm not that kind of person. So it's like, if you text me, on a Saturday morning or something like that, hey, we had a good time, this, and that. I probably won't need to hear from, wouldn't want to, probably hear from you towards the end of the week, the next end of the week, or, something along those lines. Give it some days, and then let's, see, how's life treat you.
Right. Whew. I fucks with everything that you just said. Like, it reminded me of like previous moments with previous partners, and also conversations with my ex and stuff like that. It's like, I tell people up front, I do like my personal space. I do like my time. I would like to miss you. But just sometimes you're not going to get an immediate response back. I try my best to do that, but no, I'm not going to try to, I cannot be that person who constantly hold off his own life just to make sure that you get the instant gratification that you feel like you deserve in this moment.
Exactly. And I think that for me, being a solo poly person, valuing my own life and my own independence separate from that, traditional evolution of a relationship. When you move in together, you start to share finances and things like that, because I don't want that. And I value having my own space and my own time, and which stems from a lot of factors. I think that, when people are constantly texting me all the time, or, fishing for something, to me, it's a kind of clinginess that I don't like. So it's kind of like, look, and it's not even to say like I'm necessarily, because to be truthfully honest, there's a lot of times where like I'm not necessarily busy doing something, but it's just like, be blunt, like I may not just want to talk to you at this moment. like you say, I may be watching one of my television shows, I may be listening to music, or trying to get in whatever type of vibe that I'm in. And of course I want to always, of course, if it's an emergency, of course that's something different. But just like hey, what are you doing?
Well, there was something that I saw on Facebook a while back. It's always Facebook, where there was a post that was, I think it was a meme that just said, "Do not equate my free time with my availability." And I was like,
yes,
exactly. Because my free time, I'm not worried about anybody else's bullshit. I'm worried about me.
Or something else that's a pet peeve with me that I've seen constantly happen with people is that they will if you ever had this to happen, where they will text you and you'll text back, and then it'll be hours before they text again. And I cannot tell you how much that is a pet peeve of mine, because my thing is, first of all, you texted me. So to me, that is initiating a conversation. Anytime I'm in the midst of texting someone, it's because of the fact that even if I'm doing something at the moment, I'm not so busy that I can't engage in a texting, conversation, quickly. But I've had it to happen where a lot of times people will text me, I'll text them back, and then it's like hours will pass, or, like the whole day didn't pass, or, something like that. And then by the time they text back, I'm like, I forgot what the hell we were talking about. Because it's like the communication is not consistent. And I'm not saying that, you got to be texting back within a minute, or, something like that. But at least if you're going to engage in a texting conversation, be in a space where, I can actually hold a quick conversation. Don't text somebody and then, all of a sudden you done got busy. And then now is the conversation just up in the air.
So another bit that we talked about was like how we develop bonds. Like most definitely when it comes to traditional dating, I know it's definitely possible to, create a bond with the person through traditional means, but what about online? What's your stance on that?
I think that I like I say, I think there's a lot of overlap. Just like you would create bonds in a traditional sense, I think that online there's a lot to say about finding just mutual interests. Being a part of certain groups. I know that there's like the like meetup site where like it's instead of creating a profile of like dating, you're creating a profile of things that you have mutual interest in. So, matter if that's, gardening or some type of sports activity or, something that, you genuinely enjoy doing, because I think that that's how people bond. You bond over shared values and shared interests, not based really, not to say it's not important, but, just not just doing something based on somebody's physical, presence or physical features, because it's like, oh yeah, I can run across a profile and say that, oh, that's a, handsome or beautiful person, but they have a lot of beautiful and handsome people, so when you truly find websites or online activity that can bolster, something that you either truly value, say for instance, if you are heavily like into church activities or something along those lines, then I say facilitate that. Go to places where there's going to be missions that are being done and things like that. So hopefully maybe that way you can foster in getting to know people. And it's not to say that you're going to have a romantic connection with someone, but you never know. Meeting someone at this activity, they may know someone who may be a good match for you, based on what it is that, you like. And I even tell people all the time when they're saying that, meeting people, even in the traditional sense, like, oh, like I'm, meeting people at the club and, things like that. I'm like, well, I don't really think that too many people are looking for something committed like in the club. So, not to say that it can't happen, but, I'm like, why don't we change up where it is that, you're meeting people? Go to the park, go to the grocery store, like go to places where you actually, meet people in real time. So, but definitely for the nature of online, definitely find activities and groups online that can just, like I say, just bolster that connection.
For some reason, as soon as you brought up going to the church and building connections that way, the thought that kept coming to my mind is how the best wingman in the church space is somebody's grandmother. Because trust me, grandma, after she's done all her loving, all her praying, most definitely comes to queer spaces. Grandma gonna be like, you know what? I like you. You over here at the church all the time. Let me introduce you to my grandchild.
Exactly. Yeah, because and especially for I think churches that are welcoming to queer, to queer people and being in queer spaces. Oh yeah, church grandmas they care. They don't care. Regardless of how you identify, you just tell them what you're looking for. They will hook you.
Listen, the best networking is grandmothers. That's all I know. They be knowing everybody. Oh, that's Ricky's grandson over there. And then Raquanda's her granddaughter over here. Let me go ahead and introduce you.
And even if the person hasn't necessarily come out, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, well, you should still go talk to them anyway." Like,
look, like you can find repairmen, you can find freaking social networking, like consultants. You can find a lot of things through grandmothers. Like, oh my God, it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Like, if you are having trouble, people who are listening to this podcast, even if your grandmother's not around, find somebody's grandmother. She'll get you in the right spaces. That's all I know.
Exactly. Utilize resources.
Look, so it's kind of weird that this is the next topic on hand, but this is in the show notes, people. The next topic is all about sending news. Talking about grandmothers, now we talking about sending news. Lord, forgive me. Grandma send news too. So, how do you feel about sending news?
I don't think that there's, a problem with it unless, I think like anything, if it's like becoming like a repeated pattern where you're doing it for some type of like self-validation, I'm a person like I don't mind, receiving or, sending if it's, that kind of vibe and that kind of connection. One, just because I have just an appreciation for the body itself. So when I get sent something, I'm not looking at the picture, to see like, oh, like this is, this is bigger, this is smaller, this is more round, or, something like that. I really do have an appreciation for the human body. So I'm looking at like a nude that's sent in first, like an artistic form, first and foremost. But also, of course, see engage, things that, I find to be pleasurable and, things like that. But I just think that, if sending or, receiving nudes, or especially sending, it's kind of like just be confident with the person that you are sending it to. And I think that even though we do have laws now that are specifically in place for people exploiting, pictures and videos without your consent, just be very cognizant about who it is that, you send, nudes to. If you are not, and I'm not going to specify and to say like if you're not in adult entertainment or happen to be a part of sex work that you should not do it, but just if you're going to do it, just know who you're doing it with, and be willing to take accountability if something does happen.
Like for me, I'm of the mindset that not everyone's worth my nude body.
Yeah.
And that's one way that I even protect my energy, or even protect myself from being engaged with somebody who's only going to objectify me when it comes to sex, rather than someone who's going to appreciate me during sex. Exactly. And if your main focus within our engagement is just to see my nude body, then why are you talking to me? Like, just say that's what you're interested in. You just say that you're into trading pictures. That's fine. Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of people who operate in that space. But if you're messaging me in the guys that you actually want to meet up, get to know me a little bit, and the main goal is just to see my nude body, then look, you gotta pay for that. Like, go to my OnlyFans, subscribe.
That's what truly I don't get about like a lot of people in our society, because it's like, for all of the access that we have, online on different sites and apps and all of these type things, it's like, why don't you go find somebody who's wanting the same things that you are? Like you say, if you're wanting to just trade pics and, things like that, go find somebody who wants to do that. It's like, why are you messaging me when that's not going to happen? Like, all of a sudden, if you receive a message asking for a pic, and it's like, no, what the hell? Like, that's really one of those that's what the hell? I don't know you from a can of tuna. Right. And it's like, really? Like, so I don't even know you, but you think that I'm going to show you my body.
Right. And for those people who enjoy, just trading pics and whatnot, what I'm going to do for you to give you a little bit of space, and also to build following on my Twitter page for the Soliloquy Podcast, find the post. I'm going to pin it just for y'all. The only post that's actually going to be pinned on that page is going to be show me your nudes, and you can just do whatever you want, share with everybody, comment with other people, make that your little community space. But because I will say, I would like to see an app that is dedicated to allowing people to just share their news with other people, and just be happy with that, get that fulfillment, be able to see these nude bodies that gives you so much happiness. But we don't really have that. At this moment, it's based off of the consent of the other person to send it. And you also have to be open to that rejection of, hey, I'm not going to send that right now, or I'm not comfortable with sending it right now, or what is your purpose of getting this? Like, be willing to accept that there's going to be questions with it, because not everybody wants to just be out here trading nudes.
Exactly. And I think that that's when you get into conversations about, because if you're someone that has no problem, sending nudes, and you are talking to somebody who does, I think that then now that becomes a conversation of, well, you both may have very different values about how you view the body, because to a lot of people, trading nudes is just like, oh, it's just trading, pictures. A lot of times people really don't, have any type of ulterior motives or, anything like that with just seeing, news. They just want to see they just want to see pictures, or
Mhm.
even if they do have a slight ulterior motive of just wanting to see you, in the buff or, something like that, it's more so just to, kind of like size people up or, like see if they have like this distinct feature that, like they may be sexually attracted to, but it's
Mhm.
never in a kind of malevolent or devious kind of intent, like, oh, I'm about to like blackmail this person or, things
Right.
like that. Because like we know, like there are laws against that now. So it is to say, but I think that there's a true conversation about what you and someone else value in the nature of body image. Where somebody who is a little bit more reserved or just doesn't care to do it, they may
Mhm.
have different values of the body. Whereas to say, like, oh, me sitting a nude, it's not just about a picture. Like, it's an open space of vulnerability for me that I'm not comfortable sending that to you. So, like you say, I just really hope that for the nature of no matter if you're sending or receiving, just being open to the fact that if you are, being told no, you need to take no as no.
Mhm.
So
I know I've personally experienced multiple people who, out of the blue, they send me a new, never had a conversation, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that looks nice, whatever. Give you, I guess you want an ego boost. That's all you're gonna get. And I'll try to start a conversation, and then they'll just send a message like, you are asking. So you're not going to send nothing back? I'm like, I never asked for this. So
yeah, right?
one, why would I?
No.
Two, I don't work. I don't operate in transactional experiences. So, like, did you expect just because you sent something, I'm required to send something back to you? I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
And then that's what becomes a problem, especially when something is unsolicited. If you and someone else have been talking, and I know for past like anything, and I've always said this, like if you're gonna do an exchange, make sure that that's understood that, oh, we're both sharing. But like you say, if something is unsolicited, the gall of somebody to say like, oh, like you're not gonna share anything back, when you're like, I didn't ask you to send me. Like,
Who are you?
like, who are you? Like, exactly, who are you? First of all.
Okay, little titties, you look cute. Hey,
But
Miss
I do,
Boussoir. Hello, Mr. Dick. How are you?
exactly. But I do want to also caution people who may be a part of like certain groups and stuff who are into, sending, unsolicited pics and things like that, because now there are, law enforcement and police groups that have been forming to kind of, catch, people who
Mm,
are doing these things kind of unsolicited. So definitely as we're continuing forward, for those that do send and receive, you definitely need to make sure that you're taking caution about who it is that you send to, because obviously, as we know, there's a lot of catfishing that goes on, and in the
mhm.
eyes of the law, it's not going to matter if somebody told you that they were 25 online and they turn out to be 16 years old, and you have sent a naked pic to them.
Mm,
So just be cautious.
right. And this is kind of could segue into the next bit of the conversation, but I know like there's this one app that I used to be on called Badoo. And they actually have something within their in their software that if someone were to like initiate sexual conversations, they
Mm.
actually ask you, "Are you comfortable with
Are you
continuing that?"
comfortable? Right. Yeah,
And
I was on
I
there. I
love
was on there
that.
for a good amount of time. Yeah.
I love that. And then they also do the same thing for when people send like dick pics
Yeah.
and news and things like that. It's like, are you comfortable with, continuing this conversation? Would you like to block them, report them, or anything like that? And you have that option to say, yes, I am comfortable with continuing this, or no. And I think a lot more platforms need to do stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a shame that you almost have to, like, the computer or the app has much more of an to initiate consent more than a live person.
Right.
Like, really, I definitely agree though.
That's a great conversation to go down. If for the platforms that you've used in the past, what were the names of some of those platforms, and what was your experience like?
Mainly when I first starting to try and like meet people online, and it's not necessarily just in a dating capacity or anything like that, but just like to meet people, there was this third party app. I believe it went under different names, but I signed up for it under like Scout.
Hmm.
I believe it was also like another version of like Meet Me and stuff like that. Had some nice conversations and never really went anywhere, because at that time I really didn't know like what specifically I was looking for. I was just looking to have like nice conversation or whatever. I eventually deleted it. I did get onto Badoo for a while. Same aspect, after so much time, I just ended up getting like bored with it. Deleted it. And now the one app that I do have, Bumble, is I actually really like Bumble. And it was a site that I came across at one point, and I knew that it was in a heteronormative sense. It liked the innate thing of women initiating the conversation, because obviously the violence that happens obviously against women in our society. So I like that whole aspect of like women being able to make the first move. But it wasn't until I actually searched like an article for like, oh, what some best apps to meet friends and things like that. And they were talking about Bumble, and I was kind of confused, because I was like, I thought Bumble was just like a dating app. But then when they talked about Bumble having a BFF kind of feature, and they also have a biz feature. So this one site has three distinct things about them: dating, best friends, and business for people who want to make networking connections. And I really thought that was a great website, and I've been on Bumble for quite some time now. And I think the reason why I like it is because, unlike with other like mainstream like dating sites, it's not too much traffic. It's like your profiles will pull up. Of course, it has the whole thing like what Tinder has, swipe left, swipe right. If you swipe right, the other person has to match you before you can initiate a conversation. But from my experience, it's not too much. I think like sometimes when you're on a dating app, sometimes it can feel like, oh my God, this is just like so overwhelming. And to me, Bumble has never been like that. A lot of times people will say they think Bumble's a little bit slower, but I actually think that that's a good thing. It's good not to have like, oh my God, all these options in my face at one time.
I agree. I would say my experience with Bumble, I did enjoy it. I just did not like the 24-hour thing where
the 24-hour. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if a person doesn't respond within 24 hours, they just pretty much gone, which I get it. But
I think that they've corrected that, because I do think that now you do have the option. If they have faded away, it will pull up as to say like, oh, you can just X this person, or if you want to rematch with this person, you can.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Now, I don't know. I don't know if you have to like be a paid member for that to happen, or I'm not quite sure about that. But I do know that they do at least offer that option now, where you can rematch with someone.
Now, I I will say, because the last time I was on there, I think they were integrating the biz side of things.
Okay.
So that might have been 2-3 years ago, pre-pandemic. And when that, have you tried that to see how that goes? Because
yeah, so I think it also depends on where it is that you live, because the business connection one, I don't use as much, and that's just because of what I'm looking for. I am looking to, because I am, have opened myself up to dating, and still want to, meet friends and things like that. But I also think, being from, because I'm pretty much like 20 minutes outside of the Atlanta area, and so a lot of times the people who are on the business connection side are your people who are looking for like work. They may be into photography or music. They may be in some type of entertainment. And knowing how Atlanta is, being like the Hollywood of the South, it is to say like you'll find a lot of good business connects if you are within like a particular field. So I think that that's what the business side of Bumble can do. If you are in a particular field or you're looking to get work or, you know, make networking connections within certain fields, then yeah, that business aspect is good.
Well, I need to keep that in mind. Well, with that note, it is time to do a little bit of transition over to some Never Have I Ever. Let me go ahead and get my little card stuff out. I might end up asking you something else from like Would You Rather, but we shall see.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. Never have I ever forgotten the name of my one night stand.
Never have I ever forgotten the name of my one night stand. No, I've never.
I will say I definitely have, most because sometimes I just don't have get their name.
Get their name, right?
It's hard to forget something you didn't ask for. So
right. No, if those moments happen.
Look, now I will say if I did ask their name, I cannot say I've never forgot, because I still remember some people's names from a couple one night stands. So but then again, I have more casual hookups in terms of I've had conversations with the persons rather than, oh, you horny, I'm horny, let's meet up kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
So it's hard to like compare in that sense.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've never been in a space where, you know, like it's been like just like a hookup, you know, thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been something that is a friend or, you know, casual, you know, something that is, you know, more personal and intimate than just like, oh, like you say, like you're here, I'm, you know, on my way, or, you know, like something like that. So yeah, I've never had that to happen.
Right. So this is a would you rather.
Okay.
Would you rather go to work or school completely naked for one day, or be naked every time you're in the car for the next year?
I would have to go with being naked every time I'm in the car.
Really?
Yeah, you know, the thing is that even though I am body positive and things like that, I don't know, because of the fact I am in school and I do work, obviously being an educator, like I don't care for my students to see me naked. But also I think, you know, part of being a little bit of a exhibitionist as well, like the thrill of being nude, like in a car, or, you know, something that's, you know, like contained in a way where I could like, oh, just drive off at, you know, a moment, or, you know, something like that. It's exciting. I don't know why. Yeah, like that's
a little bit of exhibitionism. No, there's a lot in there. Oh, that's just exciting. Okay, we know the truth. I will say for myself, I feel like I'll probably go with the car situation too, mostly because it's like I'm not walking out to the car naked. I'm guessing like if it's that aspect that because I think too much. If it's that aspect that I'm walking to the car naked and everything, that means I'm exiting the car naked, which also means that wherever I'm going, I'm still going to be naked. So I'm limiting that to say that I'm guessing I go to the car fully clothed, take off my clothes, drive, do whatever the hell I want to do, put the clothes back on, and then just, you know, carry on with my day.
Because they never say how long you would be in the car.
Right. And like, I'm just thinking, look, I'm driving. You look over to the left, look over to the right. You just see a man with titties. I'm just going by, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
What's up? I'm going to the beach.
Like, this is me. Like,
hello, I can shake it for you if you want me to. Let me stop. Like, it is what it is. Like, I see you, seeing me, seeing you. What's up? Yeah. Are you good?
And hey, you know, you may get some, you know, peeping toms who want a show, and you know, it's a good way to find out about some people.
You're right. You know what? Speaking of online and traditional dating, the new traditional dating is driving nude.
Driving nude, yeah.
So hey, what you wearing over there? Nothing. You trying to see?
Right. Like that's a real DM me situation.
Facts. Now, would you like another question?
Sure.
All right. Let's do this. Never have I ever one. Never have I ever fooled around with someone famous.
Never, as far as I know.
As far as you know.
As far as I know.
I have a specific, well, they're not really famous, but they're getting up there. They were on a TV show that I want to have sex with or fool around with. But, we'll see how that goes. But I also had a hookup with a local famous artist back when I was in Nashville, and their fame was towards Memphis. Forgot their name, honestly. But these local rappers.
Yeah. Now, so when you say famous, I keep thinking about like somebody who I have been intimate. It's kind of like famous adjacent, where you say it's not like they're like famous, famous is what we would think about as celebrities, but he's worked in like the the music industry, entertainment industry, stuff like that. So like he's not famous, but he has met famous famous people. So kind of like famous adjacent.
I support. Look, find me a famous adjacent motherfucker. I feel very comfortable and happy. Stop.
All right.
On that note, it is time to close out this episode. So first, Tyrell, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you have any last messages that you want to leave with the audience?
Just because of the fact we've done this segment about online and traditional dating, I just want to put it out there that no matter who it is that you may be looking for or seeking, just always make sure that you go into every situation with the best of intentions, no matter if that's online or that's traditional. Please don't feel that just because a connection was not necessarily what you wanted it to be, that it was a complete waste of your time. You always walk away with in every situation learning something new about yourself. So just keep positive and you'll be just fine.
Ooh, love that message. Now, there's something new that I want to do because I had a recent episode with a friend named Jaleesa. I think her episodes might actually come out after this episode, which will be interesting. But we were talking about high school days, which reminded me about who I was in high school. So I thought it would be appropriate for me to have my little homage to the older version of myself, just show validation that the actions that you did back then is leading me up to who I am today. And I kind of put that little side of me in a box for a while because I was big on affirmations back then. So, I kind of want to end my episodes with just this little affirmation going forward. But just in case no one else told you this, this is to the audience, of course to you too. But just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful. You are worthy of happiness and joy. You are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. This has been the Holiloquy Podcast, where we step out and talk about sexuality. Enjoy the rest of y'all's weekend. Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy Podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.HEAUXLILOQUY.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.